So we were just talking about how we're all moving out of the age of gurus because your voice is the most important, right, Susan? So tell me more about why that is. Like if you were to channel an angel, what does that imply? Like their message.
Yeah. And channeling angels and channeling guides is very powerful and very purposeful once you have that personal sovereignty to know first and foremost your voice matters. Your opinion and your dominion over your life and your choices is the most important. And once you have owned that accountability, I see it, you are the CEO and you can have your board of directors. You can go and consult others, but you need to know that, the end all be all lies in your decision making and really stand in that power first. And then you can consult outside of yourself.
I think that is just so great. And again,
Yeah.
and this has been a theme in the last few episodes. It's all about self-love and sovereignty and knowing that you're coming home to yourself. And Sarah Huckabee in a couple episodes, I love how she put it, that it's the greatest love story you'll ever know is the love story with yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And understanding. And that is what my guides have been teaching me. And over the past year and 3 months, because we didn't do it quite on track, I've been doing A Course in Miracles. And that is what Jesus is teaching you is I was meant to be a guide, but not your answer. You are your answer. And so it's all been like returning back to yourself and understanding that is your inner world that's being reflected, but that means you have all the power to change your circumstances, to change your perspective by going inward.
And I mean, what would you say to someone who feels like that they're not used to that message and aren't used to feeling the power within, that feels like that might be egotistical? Like that's something that I struggled with in the beginning. Like, how do you reconcile? Like, it's not egotistical to love yourself and to be centered in yourself for your journey. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's egotistical to expect someone else to put you first, right? That's what's egotistical is when you think you should be the priority for someone else. You being the priority for yourself means you acknowledge and understand how the universe works. In that, how your inner world is creating your outer world. I know you want to talk about parenting today, and my biggest parenting tip is to learn to love yourself because parenting is caught, not taught. Like what our children see us do is how they learn. Like that's all there is to it. And so for me, getting through all of it, and I will say there are some people out there who the way they communicate us having an aspect of the divine saying I am God, it kind of is off-putting for me too, because it's like your children are of you, but they are not you. You know what I mean? You get the aspect of source. And I understand that, like we are the whole universe or the wave becomes the ocean, but I still have a reverence and of something bigger, of something grander than me. And so I like to say that I have an aspect of source within me. And God's greatest joy is to see that expression in us.
Right.
And I don't think, I think all of our teachings that I grew up with anyway, that we are born sinners and that we are here to suffer and that we need a savior and all of this has conditioned us to be small. And so learning to love ourselves, like to undo that programming and knowing that loving myself, it doesn't mean I love you less. It means that my contribution to loving you most is when I love myself, because then I'm not going to be triggered by what you say. I'm not going to be offended by your actions. When I have a good relationship with myself, it allows me to show up the way I want to for other people.
Yes. Now that's the mic drop stuff right there, because I think you just said that's the secret to the universe, really. I mean, right there. And, I want to get into your plant medicine journey in a little bit, but I was thinking about this earlier this morning and how plant medicine, can help us kind of leapfrog some things that maybe we would find in therapy, or, you know, you go through to discover kind of who you are, but it's sort of a fast track way to really tap into that higher perspective. And I was thinking, you know, I've been to therapy to help me with some tools with my anxiety, but the greatest gift is understanding the higher perspective. And that's what you're talking about. Like, in order to gain the higher perspective is to have that relationship with what's greater. And then to know it isn't, we're all one because we're all that same, we have that same aspect within us. And once you can get there mentally in that higher aspect, you can see that your daily anxieties, what that is, what that really means, and the truth of that. And it disappears, right? You know, but so that was just a segue to get to some of your plant medicine stuff as well. But let me do a kind of proper introduction. Susan Sutherland is many things, which I'm going to let you explain because you have so many offerings on your website. But she's got a great YouTube channel. And not only is she sharing these spiritual nuggets of wisdom, but she's taken us along for the ride on how she's growing her channel and how she's monetizing and trying to. I think that's such a cool thing, because sometimes spirituality and business are separate, but really it's all our lives, right? And you're sharing it all. And I think that's the coolest thing.
Thank you.
But she's also a mom. You know, we have all these titles, right? She's a mother, she's a seeker, but you also do readings. And can you tell us more about that and some of your offerings?
I do. So what I do, I'm an Akashic record reader. So if you know of the Akashic records, it is tapping into the Akashic realm, and you never know what will come through from that realm, if it's, you know, past lives or even future lives, but it is all in information that is relevant to your journey now. Like, unless somebody's just seeking, like, you know, have I ever been in Egypt? If somebody's seeking something like that, then sure, it could come through. However, it is generally to help you understand what your struggles may be now or why you operate a certain way. And then I do intuitive readings in person in my home in Charlotte, North Carolina, and online. And so usually my sessions run about 45 minutes. That is a reading, and then 15 minutes, which is an energy work to just kind of reset someone, clear their chakras, whatever, you know, their guides and angels bring through is most beneficial for them at the time.
Well, give us a little insight on how you got there, because you used to do corporate world kind of things. And then now you're doing Akashic readings, which that's quite a leap, but I think it's pretty fantastic. We have a similar journey from corporate to real estate to, you know what, I'm actually more interested in this journey.
Yeah. And now, I mean, looking back on it, I know that real estate was plopped in my lap as a way to give me time freedom for the pursuit of what really calls my heart, which is this kind of work. And I do this kind of work because I have become a student of it. It is what I crave to learn about. It is what I am studying constantly. And so as I find something and learn about it, my heart tells me if it's in alignment for my journey, and then I'll, you know, study it more. And so I left my corporate job. Well, I got into real estate before I left my corporate job, because, you know, as real estate goes, if you're applying for mortgages, it does help to have a job.
It does help. Yeah.
So we had to like pump the brakes on that. And I stayed in my job as we accumulated properties. But I just was on this quest. And a lot of even the real estate and the personal development podcast and books that I was reading had this, you know, time for meditation, time for journaling. And it was kind of building blocks to get me on this path, but I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
You know, but self-development is also spiritual development. When you are tapping into your inner self, that is spiritual development. And so I didn't see it as that, but I can see it now in hindsight. And so I ended up, when I was able to retire from my job and just focus on real estate, that was the goal, right? Mm-hmm. And what I did instead was I sat on a bench in my backyard for months, and my husband was like, dude, I thought you were going to like go hard into real estate. And I was like, nope, I'm going to sit on this bench. And that's what I did. And I needed that stillness, and I needed that time. And it just kind of allowed for things to start moving in me. I have been receiving messages for a long time and had no idea that that's what I was doing. So it required me learning about the clairs and connecting with spirit for me to realize that the voices in my head that were my own voice, was actually spirit talking to me, and I had no idea. And so it just kind of everything unfolds perfectly where the right teacher comes when I'm like, oh yeah, I have time for this. And oh, now there's a course right here for this. And so it just started unfolding like that. And when you start bringing through messages for other people, it requires a lot of trust.
Yeah.
I remember receiving messages for a friend of mine, was a friend of mine, but not a, hey, I got all these messages for you kind of friend. But I kept checking, like, are you sure you want me to do this? Because it was stuff I didn't know about her. But I wrote it all down in a letter and I took it to her and I was like, here you go. And she called me later and she was like, yep, all of that. Like, all of that is what I'm going through. And so when I started training, and you work with a lot of volunteers and bring through messages, and then you just start getting all of this confirmation, and it's people I've never met in my life. And I know that they're struggling in love or in money or whatever the things are. And so it just requires so much trust to allow yourself to do it, but then you get the confirmation back. And so it's really helpful to have people that you work with to give you that validation. And then the more you trust, and now I have so much trust in it that it just is. And, my husband will say something and I'm like, oh, well, that person's going through this. So give them some grace, and he's like, how do you know that? I just know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, yeah, trust me. So I know. Yeah. Well, what does the session look like? How do you get people into the Akashic Records? What technique do you use?
Yeah. So we do a short meditation to get them in sometimes people have a little nerves going into something like that. And we just kind of center ourselves and kind of create a space and a container for that. And then I have an Akashic prayer that I say, and that kind of opens the space. And we invite the Lords of the Records and also angels, guides, ascended masters to join us. And almost always they can feel that presence around them for a reading, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. That is. And then whatever comes through for them is so are they, some people feel like they're seeing it and it's, some people it just depends on the session. Do you take over or is it a co-creation?
Usually I'm doing the reading. And so they might also, so if I say, where do you feel this presence? They might feel it on one side or another. Sometimes they will get images of their own. But a lot of times I am the one bringing through information for them. For me, sometimes I have to start writing down because I see it kind of as a shower head where information feels like it's coming in a lot of different streams until I channel it to a pencil. And that allows me to just kind of facilitate it for a minute and just say, like, hold up, guys. Let's just
too much.
Yeah. Yeah. And that allows me to just kind of channel that energy into a pencil, into a pen on the paper. And that just kind of opens up the conversation, and it always goes where it needs to go.
That is so cool. I mean, every session's different. Every
session's different.
That's incredible. Okay. So talking about your intuition and that you have really gotten to the place where you trust it, what better place to use it than parenting, right? To figure out what are our kids going through? How do I let them be their own? How do I help them hone their own intuition? And to me, that's what I have, a 6 and a 9-year-old, 2 girls. And I'm really trying to talk to them more and more about trusting their intuition. Really at night, sometimes we just lay there and I'm like, close your eyes and let's feel what it feels like to be Conley. Feel what it feels like to be Julia, and sit in that.
So beautiful.
Trying to just help that what we talked about in the beginning, just make sure that that's not conditioned out of them, right? That self-love and that feeling of that you can come home to yourself and know what that feels like for you. And I said, isn't it cool that when I close my eyes and I feel Kelly, it feels different than what it's almost like we're not sure when we look at yellow if we're seeing the same yellow. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so yeah. It's just opening those conversations. But we're in the infancy of it all, because I don't want to overwhelm them with complicated information. It doesn't have to be complicated. But anyway, I would love to know, like, if you could give yourself parenting advice like 10 years ago, where would you start? Is that a hard question? Or, because you were quite there doing what you're doing now when you had
No, I wasn't there doing what I was doing. I was very much caught up in the cycle of the things, getting my kids registered for all of the programs and, taking them every afternoon to a different activity. I was in the programmed mom phase. Like, this is what it looks like to have a 7-year-old. This is what it looks like. This is what
we're doing it. We're still doing that, right?
Yeah. And I think activity is great. It's just now I check in and say, is this activity driven by them or by me? Is this what I wanted for myself or what they want for themselves? Yeah. And I give them that autonomy. Now, I don't think 7-year-olds always make great decisions, but I'm not gonna, I think I see so many parents on the sidelines who are living through their children. They are fixated on accomplishing maybe what they fell short of as a child themselves. And it kind of breaks my heart, because I would rather to see them riding scooters in the neighborhood. Like, we have made it where they have to be so accomplished at everything. And I don't know, we've taken the childhood away from the children, and I don't want to do that for my kids. And so 10 years ago, I was still, definitely on that script. And there was certainly more conflict in my house. I'm trying to think, how old were my kids then? Yeah, way more conflict in my house between each other, between me and my husband, between me and my children. Now, we don't have a lot of conflict. And that goes to me doing my own healing work, not me fixing my children, but me going within and fixing myself.
Oh, well, I wish I could figure out. I feel like got the whole conflict between me and the kids, my husband, I've got that down, but the conflict between the two girls, now I'm sure it could be worse, but they're sisters, and then sometimes I'm like, please, I just can't take your emotional turmoil right now. Like, I have to put myself in the bubble so I don't feel their emotional angst with each other. I mean, it's like, don't come in my room stuff, but letting them figure that out is the only way I know, is let it be theirs.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, when they're a little older, like, I can hear my daughter is in the middle. So I have a 16-year-old boy, a 14-year-old girl, and then an 11-year-old boy. Mm-hmm. So she thinks her older brother hung the moon, right? He could do no wrong. She thinks he is everything. Now, I wouldn't say that to him, but I can see it, right? And then she'll be awful to her little brother, get out of my room, whatever. And I go in there, I'm like, can you imagine if you treated him the way you treat Dashel? Can you see the difference? I'm just curious. Do you see the difference? Because he thinks of you the way you think of Dashel. And imagine how that would hurt your feelings if Dashel treated you like that. But a lot of times there's no fixing it.
No, I like that. I could do that analogy with the older cousins. Yeah, the older cousins that she adores and thinks that they hung the moon. And I could say, what if Cameron treated you like that when you went to her house? That's all the golden rule. You can always go back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So in terms of just being their rudder and talking to them about spirituality, what would be like, how do you open their minds to the things that you believe without being pushy or putting it on top of them? You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh, totally. Because I don't want to convince them my way is the right way. I don't want that. What I want for them is curiosity. I want them to be curious enough that they explore these things themselves. And it is fun and amazing how these opportunities work for me to have conversations. I am studying Hermeticism right now, which is basically taking the nuggets from all different philosophies. Like, you don't attach yourself to one, but you find the gold in each of them. And my son comes home and he has his Greek god project, and it's on Hermes. And so I start talking about Hermes and Thoth, and we have these conversations, and that's just organic that these opportunities are provided. I don't go preaching a whole lot. I think something came up the other day, and it was about Jesus or something, and I haven't had a whole bunch of church-based talking, and I'm a big fan of Jesus. Like, I am not a big fan of the church, but I'm a huge fan of Jesus.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Brecken, do you know Jesus loves you? And so we just started having this conversation. And then he told me about, him dying on the cross because of his sins. And that just opened up a conversation for me to say, in my opinion, you are sinless. All right. You have mistakes that need correction, but you don't need someone to save you from your sins. Like, God is not ready to punish you because God is unconditional love, and unconditional love doesn't punish, and so we have little conversations, and he's actually really introspective. Like, I can have pretty good conversations with him, and he watches my TikTok, which helps because he'll like give me some information back, and I'm like, oh, okay. So sometimes they're paying attention and you don't know they're paying attention, which is very helpful.
I definitely become a broken record with some of it and thinking I'm becoming annoying because I have my little, especially with this age, like everything's always working out for you. Like these little quips that I'm like, they're stressing out about something. And I'm like, I promise you, it's give me evidence that it has not worked out for you. We talk about a lot of that evidence. Like it helps you believe. I'm not just making it up. And I'm like, look where you're sitting right now. What is actually wrong? But anyway, to your point about that, my kids ask a lot of questions about religion. And I'm like, well, some people believe this. Some people, I want you to figure out what feels right in your heart. But, I happen to agree with you about God is love.
Just be open. Like if you are open, I find that people who are the most, clenched fist, my way is the right way, know the least about every other way. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I was given and this is what I'm holding on to. And being curious allows you to learn so much and find all of the nuggets that are the same cornerstones in each religion that you could hang on to, but it allows you to be so much more open-minded and easily connected with other people you engage with. So I want them to be curious and I want them to be kind. And so we have lots of opportunities to have conversations about stuff that happens at school where, if somebody acts a certain way, we might talk about what do you think the wound they're expressing through is?
That's really good.
This is not about this behavior. They came to school with something going on. What do you think that might be? And it just allows them to kind of see things through a compassionate lens, that it's not about the situation. It never is about who got that.
It's not about them. Like they told me this and it's not about
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is not about you. They have something that hurts in them. And another way I teach them that is through my own journey, meaning if I have a reaction to something, I come back and apologize. Like I say, you know what? That really brought up something from me that was old that I realized I was carrying around. And so I went back and I sat with myself and I tried to work through that. But I owe you an apology because that reaction wasn't based on your behavior. It was something I needed to tend to.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm thinking about when my 6-year-old gaslights me and tells me that she knows how to add and I don't. I'm like, I am very triggered right now because I am adding correctly and you are not. But that's a whole different scenario where I'm like, I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to yell at her. I'm not going to be angry. She's just going to turn the other cheek kind of situation. It's going to be.
But then it's like, okay, it has nothing to do with adding, but it is when you are not feeling validated. So you are not feeling validated for something you know to be true in yourself. So then what is that about? Because it has nothing to do with your daughter.
That's right. And I need to legitimately, if I had no trigger around it, then surely I'd just be like, this is silly. You're silly, and just let it.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, there is something for you. And I do it all the time. Like now I have a 16-year-old boy and, he's starting to look at colleges and he is not my diligent student. Like he's fine. He's getting by, but he's not crushing it by any means. But one of the hardest things for me to overcome with regard to limiting beliefs and feeling that I deserve to be in this space was not finishing college. And so I find myself really having to check myself with him. I don't want him to carry my wounds. I want to be really sure that I provide opportunity and encouragement for him, but not make him feel like if you don't take this path, somehow you're less than. I've been doing a decade of work to get through that. I don't want to teach him that, only if you go to college do you have this path. First of all, I don't even think it's true.
Right.
But I know how deep that scar was for me. And so I have to be really conscious that I am not operating from that. Now, do I think he would benefit from going somewhere and having his parents pay for a little while longer for him to mature before he's responsible? Of course. I missed out. Like my mom died right after I graduated high school. So it ended up just being a crazy time for me. But I hate that I missed out on the opportunity, that opportunity. And so I have to check, like they give you so many opportunities to see what you've worked through, what you haven't. I mean, he's doing a small business finance class that is at the local college. And he came home. Yeah. He came home and he was telling me all about day trading and he's watching all these videos on day trading. And then he's telling me he's going to be a day trader. And it was like my dad wanted to jump out of my throat and be like, you have to work hard for your money and you want, you can't do it. There's no shortcuts and blah, blah, blah. And it was like choking my dad back to be like, that sounds great. Let's be really responsible. Your allowance won't go far in day trading.
And then you can see real quick if it's something that you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. But I had that opportunity to be like, oh, there's my money blocks coming up. My dad saying all of these things to me. And so your kids just offer all of these opportunities to know yourself better. But I see them as divine, perfect little humans who already have all of the knowing that they need within them. So I'm just trying not to F it up.
Right?
And
I think reminding them of that. And I will try to be, and again, they're kind of small to understand this, but I even try to tell them, like my 9-year-old, if I'm giving you advice or information that makes you feel a certain way, like that you don't actually, like tell me, like let's communicate about this. Like call me out if Mom, you're pushing that on me. Or I don't she only plays soccer because she's very adamant about, I don't want to play softball. She's resistant to trying new things. So it was really difficult to say, I want you to pick one thing because I think being brave and pushing past fear is an important value in our family. But I'm not going to make you do a bunch of activities. Do you know what I mean?
You don't have to be on the travel team.
Yeah. And you don't try it. Do gymnastics, dance, softball, soccer, but pick one thing and let's just try it. And it was the best decision, but it was so hard because it was in conflict with what you were talking about. Go play scooters in the neighborhood. Don't worry about having to be a certain, just play. But she wasn't doing things because she was scared. So
yeah, no, I think that's great.
Yeah, but I feel like I digress. But my point was just having that open dialogue where we all check in on how are we feeling about this? Like, am I making you do soccer because I love to play soccer? No, I really just don't want you to be afraid to try new things. But I'm not going to make you play softball, which I adored growing up. And I would give anything, right? Like you're talking about, I would love to play catch in the backyard and have a little batting cage. But no, we're not doing that. That's not what she's interested in. That's fine. Maybe my nephew.
You're like, I've got one more daughter, though. Fingers crossed.
But to your point, it's like, well, my husband had to let go a lot of that. He doesn't have a boy, which is fine. He adores his daughters, Yeah. But he's a big athlete. And he had, if he had a son, he definitely has these visions of playing football in the backyard, right? But you just instead really pivot in love with what you have and try to, but it's okay to say, hey, if I ever force something on you, you just check in with me and tell me, Mom, you're projecting.
Sometimes like my daughter is also my shy guy. And like when she starts a new team, I'll have to walk her down, whereas everybody else is like, Mom, don't come near me, you know? But I, for a couple of years, would like drop her off in front of the grocery store and make her go buy something. Like if we needed something, like it is you have to go in and find the thing and go through the checkout by yourself, because it would like give her so much anxiety. But my boys, I could drop off, you know, in the middle of another city and they would make their way home. They'd have extra money when they got here and 42 friends, you know, but she is nervous about that. But I'm also trying to raise adults. You know, you are going to have to try new things. You're going to have to be brave. And she's not mad at me that I did that now, because she is becoming more and more comfortable doing stuff. Or maybe she just wants more things. And now it's like, yes, you can get that, but you're going to go get it. She's like, fine.
Yeah, that works too. I mean, any little carrot, right? But I mean, I think when you have these experiences that scared you, just like us, for them, it might be walking in the grocery store, joining the soccer team, but do it, realize it didn't kill you. When that pushing past that fear, it felt very uncomfortable, but you're still alive, you're still survived. And then it just, anything else, it's not the fear of uncomfortable isn't scary anymore.
Yeah. And once you do it, then it's like, okay, it's fine. Like for her, she embarrasses easily too. And so I make a point to dance down the grocery store aisles. Like, stop caring so much what all these people think. So we have to move through that. And now she's gotten to where she might dance a little too, but she had so much fear of everybody's opinion. And that has been something to really work through, especially as she's, you know, really into teen years now. Like we're in the throes of the teens now. It's like, we have to stop caring what everybody thinks. Like, that is not our burden to carry. If they want to judge somebody for being happy, let them. We're going to let them.
And feel sorry for them that they've got that. Yeah. That's a trigger for them. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But now she sees she sees I go in the grocery store and I'll have this big conversation with the cashier and she's like, how do you know him? Like, from this grocery store. Like, I'm nice to people and I have conversations. And she realized that's a better way to live. It is so much more fun to just bring joy to your everyday life than sitting there worried about everything. I don't have time for it.
And isn't it wild that she's your daughter, right? And you automatically have this other, it comes more naturally to you to strike up the conversation. And then granted, you've done a lot of work, right? You admitted
a lot of work, yes.
But that's my oldest, right? Innately, like what you're describing about your daughter. My youngest, though, I'm always joking. I'm like, if I could take the confidence out of one and extract it and put it in the nut, just to kind of share the love a little bit, that would make everybody's life a little easier. But how cool that they're on their own little individual journeys with the same parents, that they also get to be there for each other. Like talking about how your kids are different, they can rely on each other to sort of see the alternative perspective and try things on for size, if you will. You know what I mean?
Well, and see that even within our same house, everybody thrives in their own way. Everybody responds to, my parenting styles are unique to each of them. There is not a one way works for everybody because they are unique unto themselves. And it's important for them to see that you can't assume everybody's the same. Even in our own house with the same parents, we are not the same, you know? So that's important. Like when you're navigating friendships and later navigating jobs, how you communicate with one person should be unique to how you respond together, you know?
I love that. And then again, coming back to a reflection of them isn't about me. So therefore, that's when you can see their wounds, see how they respond, understand. That's all a package, what you're describing. And
yeah. And if we operate from compassion and knowing it's never personal, if my little guy, he's probably the jolliest one I have, he's always in a good mood. If he shows himself to not be in a good mood, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, he did something and he slammed a door, and we don't have a lot of door slamming. And I gave him a little bit. And then I went up there and I was like, Brecken, this doesn't feel like it's about this. Do you need a hug? And he just came in and he got a hug. And then it's like, when you're ready, let's just talk about what's going on. But I didn't get mad at him. I didn't go up there and like, we don't slam doors in this house, because I didn't take it personally. I knew there was something going on that wasn't about me. And if I could just give him time, what he needed was somebody to listen to, not somebody to get him in trouble. Now, I guess there could be greater offenses than slamming a door that you might need to address. But this seemed, especially it being out of character, that I actually need to get to the root of this. And by butting heads with him, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to offer him compassion and then an ear. And that's
absolutely. And we all have human days, right? That maybe you were having a bad day too, and you could have maybe reacted to that door. But for me, I always joke that it sounds so simple, but my mantra is peace begins with me and parenting. If I can't say I was having a bad day and that door triggered me or something, I would be like, okay, wait, hang on. We're not going to create peace unless I'm the leader of the peace, because Lord knows that's
what I see with a lot of parents with teenagers, is they're talking about like how hard teenagers are and it's really impossible and da da da. And it's like, well, what model are you? No. What example are you modeling to them? Like, do you have control of your own temper, your own means of communication? Do you get home and complain about your day and then go straight to a bottle of something? You know, how are you managing how you deal with stress and relationships and responsibilities? And is that something that you are demonstrating how you would want them to do it? Otherwise, like, peace begins with you. Yeah. If you want your teenager to be better, then start with yourself too, because we have to take that accountability. Like, it is that extreme ownership. The buck stops with me. I have to make sure I am doing everything that I can so that I don't have anything to apologize for.
Yeah.
Because what it amounts to, like, it is my behavior in congruence with how I want to show up in this world. If not, I do need to apologize. But if it is, then I can start knowing that I'm modeling the behavior I want and helping them reach for that. But before you correct their behavior, correct you.
What it reminds me of is what's the dog trainer, Cesar Millan, what his whole philosophy with dog training. And I mean, granted, our kids are not our dogs, and I get that it's not a perfect metaphor, but he's always about like, I'm training the owner of the dog. I'm not training the dog. I'm training you to be the leader of the pack. And essentially parenting's the same.
Parenting is the same.
But I want to segue and move into talking more about your plant medicine journey. And you can go as personal or not as personal as you want, because it is a deeply personal experience. But it piqued my interest because I want to talk about parenting. And I was born in 1985, so I am a drug dare baby. You know what I mean? We all went through the dare program, and drugs were bad. And I've been sufficiently brainwashed to believe that. Although now I am so super curious about ayahuasca and different plant medicines, and especially with this sort of new revival of how they're using it in anxiety and depression, and in a more clinical scenario. Although when I've talked to some of my friends that are a little bit more of a psychonaut, they say, gosh, being in a bed with a blindfold sounds awful. Like, I want a more nature, type journey, and everybody's different. But that's what's so cool. There are options now. You can decide if you want to do a clinical trial. You can go to the jungle in Peru, and there's everything in between. But reconciling I'm a mom and I'm going to teach my kids values around drugs, and then, I'm going to go do a plant medicine journey. And granted, I understand and feel like they're two different things, but
you said the difference right there, drugs versus medicine.
Right.
So there's nothing to be reconciled when you understand
the difference,
that drugs are drugs and medicine is medicine.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't hard for me to be open with my kids because of how I live. They understand me to be on a healing journey, but also they understand that I don't do a whole lot of nonsense that wouldn't be in line with my connection to spirit, with my, holding the highest vibration. They know that the food that I eat, I don't drink alcohol. Like, I am living in alignment to where I don't think they thought I was like going off and having a meth week, you know?
Yeah. No, it's definitely too different. It's just funny how we're conditioned to maybe feel guilt around it when good for you that you're like, this feels good. I have no guilt.
So
This is
I wore the Dare shirts while doing drugs. And so I had a different approach in my younger years. And I know very much the difference of my experimentation. And I even hope to set a better example for my children that if you are going to do a psychedelic, do it with a shaman.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the way that you can do it. Even, you know, recreational use of mushroom, you can either do it where it is, you know, doing drugs and having a good time, or a ceremonial experience for expanding your consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool. Okay, tell us what you did. You flew to Peru or no? Is that?
Yeah, I went to Peru. Yeah.
That's so cool. And you went by yourself?
I went by myself, but I went with a friend that I met in another spiritual community.
Okay.
And so it was really interesting because we were supposed to kind of meet up, she from Michigan and me from Charlotte, in Atlanta and fly together. But as it would have it, my flight was delayed, and it was purposeful because I needed to take this trip by myself to know I'm a big girl. Like when I travel with my family now, my husband is such a control freak. Like I just have to pack a bag and show up. Like I don't have to do anything. And so it was really important for me to have to take this trip and know I can put my big girl pants on and travel. So we met down there and we had a couple of days in a city before we went to the retreat. And then we were at the retreat for from Sunday to Saturday. And we did 3 ayahuasca ceremonies and a Bufo toad ceremony, which is the venom from a poisonous toad. And we did Wachuma, which is from the San Pedro cactus.
Okay.
So all very unique experiences, like ayahuasca, own medicine, and then, very different.
I love that it's not like, you're like, let's do it all. Let's just all 3 different types on, and Did you have...
But it is because I am very in tune with my body as a tool of communicating to me what feels comfortable and what feels right. And so my friend is the one who researched the centers. And when she sent me this one, it felt right to me. It felt comfortable to me. And when I tapped into the medicines, they felt like they were comfortable to me. I do not think ayahuasca calls everyone. I do not think it is the medicine for everyone. The medicine does no healing it actually can do healing for you. It can do physical healing for you. However, it does a lot of showing you. The integration, though, was on you. And so even when I was talking to my husband, he was back here and we would get to talk every once in a while I was there. And I was like, I think maybe you'll do this one day. He was like, maybe one day. I'm very curious. And he did say, I'm very jealous of how happy you are because I'm happy, you know? And, but he did have enough awareness to know that he's not prepared enough to do the work when he gets home, or even do the work to get there, because you really have to do a lot of cutting out of things in your diet to get there. Or else ayahuasca, when she's cleaning, she's going to be cleaning out your physical vessel. But you can do a lot of that by cleaning out your diet and then work on things that you couldn't do just, in your kitchen.
One of the reasons it intrigues me because control has been something that I have a lifelong journey of healing, the need for control. And I mean, I feel like that'll just button you right up. It'll take it right away, send you straight on the, surrender journey and not have to learn the lessons in a slow, methodical way. They'll just go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off for you. So do you have any, one question I had though, when you came back home, you left on a Sunday right after it was all wrapped up. Did you need more time to integrate and not to be back into real life?
You would. I say that because I remember the experience of doing anything and coming home to littles that depend on you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Very different. I mean, my children, I wake up 2 of them. My son drives my kids to school. It's a very different experience now to live in a house with grown kids. So my integration I was okay with, we had one day and then I came home and I stayed on a high for about, I would say 2 weeks before just kind of the energy of our country and all of this stuff started kind of feeling unsettled again. But it did give me a lot to process. Like lots of journal prompts came home
Right.
with me. I'm like, I didn't have time to work through all of this, but I need to go back to it and just allow it to come up.
Okay. Well, that is because I would also be like, man, even if I'm just feeling a little hungover and depleted, I need an extra day or two just to your point, just to jump back into life. But
I
okay.
would think that is proper. I mean, even when Mark and I used to like go away for a week and come back, I always think there should be like a grace period where you're not on vacation, but you get like 2 days to get through jet lag or whatever before you have to be a parent of three
Even
kids.
just hungry, right? But just let me get a leg up before I have to start life again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or the volume. Like it's just loud. Like I was at a quiet retreat and I was just loud. But I'm just at a different place right now that it was easier to integrate and come
That was
back.
so
The
cool. Okay, so tell
transition.
which one, do you have a favorite? They're just three different experiences. Do you want to go through any of them and give us some details on like what you said? I watched one of your videos and wasn't your ayahuasca journey very easy, quote unquote, compared to some?
I had one that was like my cheeks hurt. I was smiling so much. I was so happy and it was like a celebration, and that's not what I expected.
Right.
So I was just so happy. And the people near me are just having a hard
Yeah.
time. And I was dealing with guilt,
Mhm.
guilt that I felt really good in my body. I felt really happy. Everything is good. I'm getting beautiful messages from Mother Aya and they are struggling. And that was what I was meant to release then is the guilt. Um, because I am choosing to spend my time and my energy in different ways than a lot of people do. And so it was like, we all have this choice. And what I carry a lot is feeling guilty that I'm having a good time and other people are struggling. Like it is hard from a compassionate or empathic heart to be like, I can't feel guilty because I can't feel happy because they're struggling. You know what I mean? And so that was my first experience it was really a powerful, I got lots of messages that I'll say are private. And then I just had this carnival journey and it was happy.
And you didn't
And
get
then
sick and you just had a party.
I was on cloud nine. I did have like gas. My stomach was unsettled, but that was it. And it was just joyful and amazing. And then the next night, I had a very different experience where I got to experience the collective, where the guy beside me who was purging violently, I merged with his consciousness and I experienced his purge. And so one had been my individual journey of these are the choices you're making. But the second night is, hey, but you're still part of this collective. And when one suffers, we all suffer. And so it ended up completely shifting from me as a separate individual to me as part of this collective and how they work together, how those nights, those ceremonies work together was so incredible. And it made me understand how smart and intelligent the medicine is, because I know over the course of my 3 ceremonies, like how they work together was so brilliant and
Like
fantastic.
told a story almost.
It told a story. It totally told a story. It wasn't like I just rocked up and, had this medicine and that was it. And it was isolated. Like it worked together, which I think is just phenomenal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The medicine knows.
No, it is unbelievable, but I definitely believe it. I love listening to people's stories. There's a podcast and it's like something about a mom and psychedelics, and I'm losing the name of it, but I don't know why I'm fascinated with motherhood and psychedelics together, because I know it's not mutually exclusive. It's obviously something inside of me that like living my authentic truth is not mutually exclusive to motherhood. Do you know what I mean? But that's why that's all fascinating to me, that you're so open with your kids and you're able to talk them about this journey and come home and tell them about it and be like, how cool is this, that this experience I got to have.
Yeah. And I pick and choose what I tell them, but nothing is excluded from them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's interesting because I had more hesitation telling my in-laws and my parents who were here as I was kind of getting ready to go. And then I was like, you are a grown woman. Like, you are a grown woman. Why would you be afraid?
Yeah, I get it. Because you're afraid of them not understanding, and then afraid of their perception because they might not understand.
Don't understand, but I need to be comfortable with them not understanding. And so I did tell them, and my stepmom, she's so cute. She was like, well, you can go thinking that I'm going to learn about healing, and you can go, but you don't have to do it, right? It's like, lady, I am going to do it.
Yeah.
This journey is to have the medicine. I'm not bringing this back to my, energy healing patients.
How funny. You have the choice when you get there. You can say no.
Yes. Which I did feel like I could say no. Yeah. And I do feel like if ever I felt that one ceremony had been hectic, then you just pass the next time. You sit in ceremony because you can still be healed by being in the presence. But I really trust my body to know, for my intuition to use my body so that I know what is right for me. And I felt really comfortable. And that's what I'm teaching my kids too, is to tap into your body and get those yeses. So I don't know. I didn't have a lot of, even I think more than me not having concern, my husband didn't have concern about me talking to them, but I didn't want it to be some hush hush trip I did. Like, especially if you're going to I have a podcast that I'm going to talk about it. So telling y'all one thing and then telling the rest of the world something else doesn't feel in alignment.
Doesn't feel right. And then how free, it's just freeing when you're able to just be an open book like that. And everybody's on the same page and, hey, this is me. And that's just a little stepping stone to other things with your in-laws and other things with your kids. And I don't know. I think that's so beautiful. And I just think I'm so excited about your journey in here. I watched all your videos. I just thought it was so cool. So I'm certainly curious, and I'm going to look up I'm not ready. Like you said, I'm not quite there yet, but it's definitely on when I'm completely called. I think it'll be something.
Yeah, you'll know when the time is right. And it'll be not when the time is right for you, but when the time is also right for your family,
Well, and I will say, talking about being authentic and calling it what it is, I've gone on some of these things where I have a group of friends that are spiritual, and we'll go to different retreats together. And I always just call it a meditation retreat when anybody asks me where I'm going, and solely for the fact of I just don't feel like explaining. Maybe I'm going to see Bashar and we're going to channel aliens. Like, I don't mind talking about it. And if people have questions, I'm all about it. But sometimes you're right. It's just easier to be like, it's a meditation retreat.
Okay. Yes. I do get that. I pick and choose what I say to certain people, and but
how fun when you're surprised by the person and they're like, I love Bashar. I see him on TikTok. And
right. And you're like, oh, in that case, let me tell you more.
Tell me. And then I'm more intrigued. Like, no, you tell me what intrigues you about Bashar. Like, I'm all in with all the questions.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking all the time, because I can't believe it, but I think we're at an hour and I could talk to you all day. So this is amazing. And you've given me so many great nuggets to bring home. I'm sitting here at home, but you know what I mean, to my kids and my family, and things I would definitely want to learn from your journey and bring back to my kids. But tell us what your website is, because I'm ready to book an Akashic record journey. Like, that sounds amazing.
Okay. So my website, this is one of those like little personal things. It's Sue Sutherland, but Sue has no E. So it's SUSutherland.com. So my name is Susan, and my loved ones call me Sue, but we have an understanding that Sue has no E. I don't know why it matters to me, but it's like Sue with an E, that's your actual name. And mine is just a nickname.
Oh, I see. Yes. Sue. Well, and I called you Sue in my email, and then I saw another video. You're like, my loved ones do that. And I'm like, well, now I'm in.
Yeah, you're in.
Indoctrinated.
Yeah, so I'm, SueSutherland.com. Yeah.
And from there, it'll have your Instagram and your YouTube and all the cool places that you're at, because you are a wealth of knowledge and information. So
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.